Today I want to talk about my favorite piece of gear, my most beloved investment when it comes to music producing and mixing, the Ableton Push 2. Let's get into the video. Okay, so MIDI controllers have been the favorite companion of most producers for a long time now. It enables you to make music without having to click the notes in with your mouse or without having to use your computer keyboard to try to play on there. Now the typical MIDI keyboard that looks a little bit like this has been around for a long time now. However, the major disadvantage of making music with a typical MIDI keyboard layout like this is that you have to either learn music theory or do a lot of trial and error. Now, I'm a drummer by trade, so I'm really good with rhythms and that sort of thing, but when it comes to music theory, I'm out. I cannot play the piano, I do not know about scales, I do not know all these fancy musical words, but that is exactly where the Push came in for me. Let me show you what's special about it. Okay, so first things first, the Ableton Push 2, as the name suggests, is made by Ableton. It's hardware that is made to be perfectly integrated with the Ableton Live software. So as you can see, the Ableton Push 2 is a pad-based MIDI controller, meaning that it does not rely on the typical keyboard layout, but it rather relies on a field of 8x8 pads that you use to actually play in the notes. Now, besides the absolutely flawless integration between software and hardware, the Push actually also makes it super easy for you to play MIDI notes, to make music, to play chords, to play notes, to stay within scale. All of that good stuff that you usually would have to learn music theory for, you can hack your way around with the Ableton Push. Let me show you how that works. Okay, so on the Push itself, you'll find a bunch of different buttons that correlate with hardware functionality as well as Ableton software functionality. So if I press the scale button that's right on that right side right here, I can choose between all the different root notes as well as the actual scale, so major, minor, and then all these other more niche scales. So let me go ahead and select the scale D minor. I'm in D minor. Let's go with G minor. It's as simple as that. So as you just heard there, just by a little bit of freestyling, pressing around on the pads that are all within D minor scale, it was super simple to come up with something cool, a little catchy melody. Now here's where the cool part comes in. Even if you load in different instruments, such as 808s for example, it will also keep within the same scale. Here's the thing, you cannot press a wrong note. So as soon as I load in an 808 sample, all I have to do is make sure that it's actually tuned to C, and then I can go ahead and play and it'll transpose it up and down within the scale that I have selected. So I load up my sample. Then up here, with all these knobs and the little display on the Push, I can actually select all of the different parameters that I could be selecting down here as well. Now, I would not say that the Push can do everything that you can do within Ableton software. You still need your computer. You still every now and then have to hop back and change some settings on the screen with mouse and keyboard. But the most basic and the most used features that you'll actually need on a regular basis are pretty easily accessible on the Push. So I can, for example, change the 808 from the classic sampling mode to the one-shot mode. Super easy. So let's put some 808s on here. Cool. Alright, so within a very short period of time and without any kind of knowledge about music theory, about which notes to hit on an actual keyboard, it's very simple to just match up the notes, stay within the same scale, and then come up with some pretty cool melodic instruments. But even when it comes to drum programming, the Push has some tricks up its sleeve. So let me load up my default drum kit and I'll show you some of those. Right, so now that I have my drum kit loaded, you can see I have all the samples here. Now that is basically the same layout as you'll find on most other MIDI keyboards as well. As you can see, this Minilab MK2 by Arturia also got the pads up here. That will basically do the same exact thing. However, obviously Ableton has to one-up everybody and put some features into the Push that you wouldn't find on most other MIDI keyboards. Most notably when it comes to drum programming, it is going to be the repeat button. So with the repeat button, once you hit it, this whole row of side buttons starts to light up. You can select between quarter notes, eighth notes, 16ths, 32nd, and then also all of the triplets in between. So let me go with the 16th notes. And now if I just keep pressed the hi-hats, you get what it's doing, right? It's sticking to the BPM that you selected for the project, and it's just repeating in either 8th notes, 16th, whatever you select on the side. So you can come up with some pretty cool hi-hat rolls just on the fly. No programming, no needing to know where to put the hi-hats. You just kind of play around those buttons. So that's really how you can build up on your drum tracks really nicely. So let me turn off repeat and do some kick and bass action. I'd say that sounds pretty good already for it being just a 10-minute little dabble in it. So this entire time you've also seen me operating Ableton just with my push, meaning that I obviously have a play button, I have a record button, I have a delete button, I have a quantize button, I can mute tracks, I can solo tracks, I can stop clips. There's so much functionality. It would completely blow the frame of this video to talk about all of the different features. Let me know if you're interested in learning a little bit deeper into what the Ableton Push can do and if that might be a wise purchase for you. Alright, so I know this wasn't nearly as in-depth as I could have gone with the Ableton Push, and there's tons of videos out there that really deep dive into the push, but these I would say are one of the most used features that I use basically on a daily basis when it comes to either making beats or even just mixing vocals and all of that stuff. So is the Ableton Push for you? First of all, as an obvious giveaway, if you're not using Ableton, while it works as a MIDI controller for other DAWs, it's not worth it. However, I'd say if you are already using Ableton and if you are looking to get yourself a MIDI controller that can do so much more than just the typical keyboard, therefore costs a lot more than your typical MIDI keyboard though, this is a great investment. But so far my experience has been that it just completely pays off. I feel like as soon as I had the push, it was so much easier to just let my creativity flow and not be held back by my limits of not knowing music theory or having to like click in notes. I always hated doing that. So being able to set a scale and just start playing with it, that's such a cheat code. So with all that wrapped up, I hope that you enjoyed this little best off of the Ableton Push features that I use on a daily basis video. Let me know down in the comments if you have any specific questions about the Ableton Push 2. With all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Stay happy, healthy, and productive. Peace!